Well, hundreds of thousands of demonstrators hitting the streets across France today in a last-ditch effort to reverse the raising of the nation's retirement age from 62 to 64.
Earlier this year, people in France began protesting about a 2-year raise in retirement age. The same policy is being implemented in Australia, but the Australian public does not seem as concerned about their pension age.
Do you know what age Australians retire?
Like 50, 60?
No,
60.
like 70s, 75, something like that.
I'm gonna guess 64? Something?
I'm gonna say it's around 65.
I might be dead by then.
I just plan on getting rich. Inflation's gonna go up a lot, eh?
To better understand how working Australians view this new policy, I had a chat with a few of them.
I did hear about it, but for me, because retirement seems so far away, I didn't really give it much thought, to be honest.
It just sounds gross, to be honest. I don't want to do that, but at the same time, looking at like superannuation and things like that, it's like, will I even be able to stop working earlier than that anyway?
What might have meant to be a good retirement age of 60 back 20, 25 years ago, having raised it to 65, means that, economies are realizing that there's pressure.
Oh, look, it's tricky, isn't it? Because it's one of those things we talk about, retirement equity. So if you work in a role like I work, perhaps maybe it's easy and fun and exciting to be working till 67. If you work in construction or retail or hospitality or aged care, it might be less fun and exciting to be working to 67.
But what do the experts think?
Look, I think it's a very practical decision. Australia has had a steadily rising life expectancy over a long period of time. That increase has slowed somewhat in the last decade or so, but the original retirement age of 65, I think, was introduced many decades ago, even a century ago. So it makes sense that there is some increase, a staged increase in the retirement age.
People are expected to live longer now, and therefore they will spend many more years now in retirement. But as we know, if people live longer, they need to consume more. So in order to consume more, they need to have more income during their retirement. And one way to have more income is to work longer.
I certainly think that there needs to be a strong focus on how life expectancy at retirement age is changing or will be projected to change in the future, and potentially linking the retirement age to that life expectancy.
A worker that worked for 30 years, their wages are increasing over time. This is usually according to the life cycle working experience. So for older people, they may not willing to accept lower wage rate, and for firms, they may not willing to pay higher wages. So the idea is good, but how to implement it, I think, is difficult.
Certainly in Australia, we've known for some time there would be this change in the pension age, and so it's been flagged several years in advance that there would be this staged increase from 65 to 67 years. In France, from what I can tell, it's been a bit more haphazard, as I mentioned before. If that happens, people think, well, hang on, this is a snap decision that's been made. All of a sudden, I thought I'd be retiring at 62. I'm going to have to retire at, I think, 64. I think they increased it to.
France, they have this public pension. I think if I remember correctly, they have this universal public pension. So for older people, they have, during their work time, they have contributed a lot for the older generation's public pension. So when it comes to their turn, they also want to be financed by the younger groups, and therefore they are less willing to work longer, and they feel that it's unfair to them to work longer, and this is the complication.
I feel like Australians are just quite compliant. I feel like we're used to rules, and even if we don't like something, we'll complain, but we kind of just cop it and go along with it.
My birthday was in June, and the increase was going to start from in the next month in July. I'd had enough of where I was working, sort of thing. So I was looking forward to getting to 65 and retiring. And so the idea of doing another 6 months, I wasn't impressed with at all. I own my own home, and I've got enough income from pension and my superannuation, so not that I don't spend big, but I'm comfortable, I can buy everything I want.
I feel like just because you're living longer doesn't necessarily mean you're capable of working up to the same standard as someone younger.
I've had a bad back problem for quite a while, and I had to be careful how I moved, otherwise yeah, it's got 3 bulging discs in my back. If I twist sometimes, that causes quite a bit of pain, and I might have to have a few days off or something work.
For example, where I'm from, in Korea, the average retirement age is actually 50, although when you can actually access pension is around mid-60s. So you have this really awkward 10 or so years where you retire, technically retire from your job, but you still can't access your pension. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why there's a high relative elderly poverty rate, because a lot of these people for 10 years, they're looking for things to do. And there's a joke that, after you officially retire when you're 50, you open a fried chicken shop.
In Australia, of course, the biggest issue still in all of the research that's done is around ageism. And so if you speak to anybody over 50 out of work, it's really quite difficult for organisation workplaces to adjust their thinking of what a 50-year plus workforce is capable of.
If you look at a lot of the current consultants who are doing a lot of those ERP, enterprise resource planning style implementations, a lot of the really sophisticated individuals are in their late 40s and even in their 50s.
With the steady rise in life expectancy, it seems like further increase in retirement age is fairly certain. What is uncertain is how this change is going to affect the workforce in their later years, especially considering the rapid advancement in information technology and how it will transform the way we work.